Right, so welcome to the last lecture. So I'm going to give you a revision and I'm going to give you some hints on what you need to know about the exam as well. I will show you how the exam questions will be formatted so that you know what to expect. And I will explain in detail how the logbook assessment will also work, which will take place in 2 weeks from now. I don't know when exactly the exam is for this module because the timetable hasn't come out yet, but it will be at some point in the May exam period. And when the timetable comes out, then I'll know and you know. Okay, so first of all, you need to know your way around the page on Moodle. So you need to know where everything is and what you need to pay attention to from it. Okay, so there are two videos. There is the logbook instructions and there is the exams explained videos as well. So these are links to my videos on them on YouTube. Okay, they basically will explain how everything works. So they will explain everything that I'm going to say here today as well. You will just have it in another recording so you can see it in more detail. All right. There are some example questions. So I will actually have a look at this first. So the exam itself will last for 1 hour and it will consist of 50 questions. The one thing that I have to say about this exam is that the previous 2 years, a certain ethnicity of students, and I'm looking up, had the questions. So they all scored 80% plus. So yay, this year I'm changing all the exam questions. So I'm sorry if you bought them, ask for your money back. So anyway, yes. So anyway, we changed the operating system. The routing is different. There are differences. So yes, there is no point giving you past questions. You just need to know the format of the questions, basically. All right. So if I tell you everything you need to know from Moodle itself, from the lab sheets, then you should be good to revise from there. All right. So the first type of question that you will have is multiple choice. So there will be a text and then there will be 4 options underneath it and only one question will be correct. Okay, so you will see that in those types of questions, you can only select one answer and that's it. If you select another answer, the previous answer gets deselected. So you will get this. You will also get, there is a highly unlikely probability that you might get a true or false question. Okay, if I get tired around the 54th, 55th, 45th question or whatever, I might just throw in a couple of easy ones just to, help you a little bit. Although our external examiner said that it's a no-no, fine. The most difficult question that you can get is this one. Okay, so you need to know your networking. So you need to know binary to decimal IP address conversion. There will be one of them. Okay. Other than that, I want you to know what a subnet mask is, what a 30-bit long subnet mask means with regards to all of the binary bits and everything else. And most importantly, I want you to understand and know the lengths of how many hosts can a specific subnet mask fit inside it. Okay, useful tip for this, there are charts on the internet. One host bit, so many hosts. Two host bits, so many hosts, and so on. The other useful bit of information is that this is an open book exam, which means what? It means that you can bring with you one piece of paper, A4 sized, and you can write on it on the back and on the front of it. Not 4 pieces of paper. Yes, it's happened in the past. One piece of paper, A4 size, back to front. It can be handwritten or it can be typed. So yes, you can copy that chart, make it really small and just stick it in there. Yes. And really, if you can make like tiny typed letters and bring a magnifying glass with you, I'm all for it. That's fine. All right. So you can do whatever you like on that A4 piece of paper. Okay. So make notes of commands that you might not remember, locations of files and so on. So basically information in your logbook that you think is difficult to remember. Okay. So you might get the questions that are converted binary to decimal. You will get at least one. You will get questions that have a command, for example, and they're asking you if the syntax is right. So you need to know the syntax of the command. Yes. You will get questions about configuration files and where they're located or what they should be like or what they look like and so on. And you might get something like this that says the following paragraph is an extract from a configuration file. and then you need to figure out some information out of it. Okay, so I'm giving you a bunch of text. It means that you need to be able to understand the file that I'm giving you, what each of these lines does in this file, and then I will ask you a question about the contents of that file and what it actually means. Okay, so it's simply to understand your testing of that configuration file. And there might also be multiple response questions, which is the last type. So I might ask you which files are needed to run routing in Linux. Okay, so there's at least two that I can think of the top of my head. You need the daemons file and you need the frr.conf. So we will have 4 or 5 options or whatever. You will need to select the 2 correct options. You won't know how many you need to select. This is what makes it difficult. And you need to select only the correct ones. So if you select 2 correct ones and a wrong one, you lose all the marks. Okay, so it's all or nothing. All right. Those 50 questions are generally very quick, very fast. Yes? Yes. It's being recorded. Like 2 questions. So if I have 5 options as an answer, and I tell you choose the correct ones, and the correct ones are only 2, if you select 3, or 1 correct and 1 wrong, you won't get the marks for it. Okay, so you must choose exactly only the correct one, because it means that you're not guessing randomly and you're lucky. You can still be, fine, small percentage though, you know. All right, it means that you know what it is. So, I don't remember what I was going to say next. Yeah, 50 questions, very quick. Okay, usually doesn't take people the full hour to finish the exam. Okay, so what I recommend you do is, and I always tell this to all the students, so if you've done ICT with me, you will know this already. The questions come up one by one. So you log into the test, the first question starts. If you know it, immediately answer it, move on to the next one. If you don't know it immediately, leave it, move on to the next one. Don't answer it. Okay, go through all 50 questions like this. Scroll through all of them, answer the ones that you immediately know, and then once you reach question 50, on the top right corner there's a little arrow. You can get a navigational window, and you can go back to all of the questions that you haven't answered, and those questions will be marked differently to the ones that you've answered. So you don't have to search back through all 50 questions. If you've answered 30, only the 20 that you haven't answered will be unselected. Okay, so you can navigate back to those questions and you can think about them some more and answer them and take your time. The benefit of this is, if you do this and you end up being at question 50 and you look back and you've answered 40 of them, you're laughing. Yes, you have 50 minutes left and you've answered most of the exam. All right. And even if you haven't, even if you still have half the questions to answer, you know how many questions you don't know and how many questions you need to tackle and how much time you have for them. So you don't just stick onto one question for 10, 15 minutes. That's a disaster, yes? No question should take you more than 5 to 7 minutes to answer. All right. So you need to be smart about how you actually tackle the exam itself. Okay. The only thing I can help you with is if you reach question 50 and you've only answered 2, you're on your own. I'm sorry. Okay. If you revise well, you should be okay. And if you make good notes on that piece of paper that you can bring, you can still get lots of questions from it. Okay. So what do you need to bring? Let's see. I'm going to start from the beginning. So we start with cloud design with OpenNebula. So there is a PDF document in the very beginning, which is not a lab sheet. It talks about OpenNebula itself and how it actually works. I want you to know everything in here. Okay. So for example, one of the questions, and I will give you this, is to do this. So you can actually drag the pieces and put them in the correct place. Okay. Because it's very important that you know what the architecture of OpenNebula actually looks like. So what a cloud looks like. Okay. So there is a question that it has like the 6 pieces and then you put them into place and you draw the thing. All right. So you need to know what data stores are, what do we mean by front end, what are the virtualization hosts, and so on. You need to know what we mean about dimension in the cloud. I think from this document alone, there will be maybe 10 questions in the exam itself. Yes, because it's very important, it's very basic, and it covers everything. So it's easy for me to get questions out of this. Okay, All the rest are like practical tasks that we do in order to configure the thing. So this is a lot of theory in here. Make sure that you absolutely understand everything in this. If you revise and you figure out that you don't understand something in here, ask your friends or send me an email and ask me, or ask me next week in the lecture. Okay, so next week's lecture will be, I'm not going to deliver any new information. I will be here so that I answer any questions that you might have from your revision. And that's why I'm doing this today and not next week, because the week after that is assessment and there will be no class in the last week. Okay, so make sure you understand all the networking aspects of it, the images, data stores, how everything works. Basically, everything in this is an SOS thing apart from the advanced components in the end. Okay, so I won't ask you what types of hybrid integration you can do with AWS and so on. We haven't actually touched that, and we don't care about it at this point. Okay, it's the basic principles that we care about. So, first one, the documentation, everything apart from the advanced components. We go into Linux setup. Now, this can be a bit tricky because I assume that if you're going to be installing the operating system, you understand some basic things about it. Okay, so for example, hard drive partitioning. Okay, I need you to know what partitions should a Red Hat operating system actually have. Okay, so you should have a /boot, a /swap, a /partition, and maybe a /home partition, which we delete. All right, so little details like this. If you think that something, if you're not sure about if something should be will be in the exam or not, just ask me next week. All right, and next week I will have finalized all the questions as well, so I will know. All right, I will try to only include questions that can be answered directly by what we've done in the lab sheets. All right. However, you need to be careful because some of the instructions in here, because it's all step by step, you might have just followed the instructions and not really care about what it does, which is a mistake. Okay, so when you revise, go through your logbook, look at all of the steps. If you understand what's happening and why you did that step, that's fine. If you don't, A, it's going to cost you marks in your logbook. B, it might come up in the exam and you might lose marks from there as well. All right. So all of the settings, the different types of installations that you can have in the operating system and so on. I want you to understand the addressing scheme. I want you to know why this is 23 and not 24. Yes, because we're supernetting our network, combining networks 28 and 29. All right, so this is explained in the video lecture. So another good thing that you can do is you can actually go back, make dinner or coffee or something, or some vodka, depending on your disposition, and watch all of the video lectures again. Okay, so that you get any information that I have from the lectures themselves. That's why I'm recording them, so that you can revise from them as well. Yeah. And beyond that, you don't need to worry about anything about the backups. All right, I'm not going to ask this. And you don't need to worry about anything in any bonus round anywhere. All right. The only exception being, I don't remember, we'll see it in a bit, if routing was a bonus round, because we do need routing. I think it's not. Okay. So, what you need to know about installing a Linux Red Hat operating system on a computer. Basic information. So we move on to the next lab sheet, which is the OpenNebula installation. I want you to know what repositories are. Why do we do it this way? Okay, why are we creating an OpenNebula.repo file? How does it help us? Okay, it helps the system automatically using DNF or YAM to go and find the installation files and any other dependencies for those files as well. All right. While we're at it, I want you to know the different types of installation as well. So why do we do yum install or yum -y? You could be doing yum, you could be installing something with RPM, RPM -I, whatever, or you could be installing something from source, which you do it when you're configuring OVS. Yes? So 3 different types of installation in Linux, and what are the benefits of it? All right. You don't need to know all of the different packages, server, Sandstone, whatever they're called and everything. It's fine. I'm not that fast about that. You don't need to worry about the authentication and all that, but I do want you to know what this file does. All right, so this is the file that stores the password for the one admin user, and that's the location of it. I don't care about FireEdge and why we're disabling it. This just pertains to our labs setup specifically. Passwordless SSH. I need you, so if I give you an SSH config file, I want you to be able to tell me, we had to make these changes in order for passwordless SSH to work. Okay, I won't ask you to write them, but I will ask you to highlight the lines that we had to change or changes what we had to make. I might even make it multiple choice and say it was this change and this change, or it was this change and that change and so on. Okay. I do want you to remember which port Sandstone runs on, 9869. I do want you to switch off your bloody phones when I'm giving a lecture and I'm recording it as well. And I would like you to know the locations of files. So this table here, that's what it's for. So I want you to know where all the log files and everything is, okay, so that you know where everything is located in the operating system. I don't care about the firewall stuff, so you can leave all of this out. All right. So virtual machine creation, I want you to know this sequence. So I want you to know how you actually go about, like what is the correct order of tasks in order to build a virtual machine inside your OpenABLA cloud. Okay, and it is important, so I might actually give you a question that says, put the items in the correct order. All right, it's this. Okay. I've had students debating in the past, but sir, you can also add the networking first and then add the fine. Yes. The question will be, how did we do it in the lab? All right, not what is objectively one of the possible ways to do this. All right. I don't care that much about the networking bridges and everything. However, I do care about the configuration files themselves. Okay, so if I give you this file and I ask you what it does, and it is a multiple choice question that underneath it says this bridges ENS 160 to BR0, that's the correct answer. Yes? Or if I give you this file and I ask you what IP address will the computer have, and this one here says 28.73, then that's the correct answer. Okay, so I might give you a configuration file and ask you specific information from that file. Services and everything. We're not going to have this. I'm not going to include this at all, okay, because this is just a fix that we do in order to make our life easier in the lab. All of the process of adding the networks and everything else, I will not basically, it will not be in, okay? I don't care about this. So yes, you create a network and you configure it with whatever specific setup applies to your configuration, to your setup. So I don't need all the specific. Like I'm not going to ask you what is the correct order for you to go through all of these tasks. Yeah, it's pointless. It's not generic knowledge that you need to know. Images, I want you to know though what types of images we have. Okay, so when you create a new image and it tells you, do you want it to be a CD-ROM, or do you want it to be an operating system image, or do you want it to be an empty data block? I want you to know what these three types are and what they do. Yeah, I might give you what we call a matching question. So I might have the three different types, and you might have drop-down menus next to it with the three different answers to them, and you need to match them to the correct answer. Yeah. But it will be drop-down menu, so you won't have to type it. You'll need to figure it out. You don't need to remember the Python stuff that we did in order to work around the problem with the CD-ROM of the image. Okay, so I don't need this. I do want you to know what we use a template for. Okay, so what are the characteristics inside the template that are the most important ones to define? So this could easily make a multiple response question. Okay, so we need to have a name of the machine, we need to tell it what hypervisor to use, we need to have a memory, we need to have a physical CPU, we need to have visual CPU, and so on. So all of the ingredients that make the template actually work correctly. If you didn't have this in, the template wouldn't start. Okay, if there are questions that are not answers that are not correct, they will be really not correct. Okay, like really, really not correct. It's not going to be something that will confuse you. All right. So if you know, you know. Adding a virtual machine, we don't need anything from here. So Sandstone familiarization is out. I don't need anything from this lab set. Okay. So you don't need to worry about user permissions and all that, the different states. It's fine. All right, I don't like this lab set. Networking. Okay, I want you to know all of the commands. Oh. Yes. Okay, so if I ask you, how do we extract a tarball? You will need to answer it tar minus x or tar minus xzf. It will be a multiple choice. I won't ask you to type it because there are multiple answers that can be correct, and I don't want to avoid that. Yeah. So what does DNF update do? Or why do we add a Y here? Okay, to automatically answer yes to yes, install it and move on. Yeah. And then I don't need you to know all of the packages that you need to install. So don't worry about this. All right. But I do want you to know and understand this process. Boot configure make. Because this is installation from source. This is the oldest way to install something in Linux, and it's the most customizable and the most basic way to install a software in Linux. All right. You need to also know and understand why do we need to make changes in this openvswitch.spec file, because this spec file is the guide for the compiler to compile the software and create the RPM that we want. Okay, this is what it reads, and it answers all of the questions that the installation asks. All right, and that's where the RPM build command depends on. So the RPM build builds an RPM for us that is customized to our system, and it uses the OpenVSwitch spec file as the guide to do that. I also want you to know what's the difference between yum install and yum local install. All right, yum install will go online and fetch program and install it. Yum local install will install a specific RPM that we have next to it or in the path that we've given it, but it will also go online and fetch any dependencies that we might have. Okay, it is the most useful command ever. I do want you to remember to know the obvious VACTL commands. Okay, so obvious VACTL shows us all of the network cards that we are running, and add bridge adds a bridge, add port adds this port, and so on. I might give you this picture and highlight something in it and tell you what did we do here. We added a bridge that contains two ports. One of the ports is called net28 and the other port is called ENS160. So essentially we're bridging those two ports to the outside world. And this is how we get networking to the outside world on subnet 28. These are the same ifconfig files as we used in the installation. So if I do ask you something, it falls under the same category. So I might ask you, what does this line do? And you tell me, yes. So what is prefix 23? What does it mean? What does it do? I might ask you about ifconfig. Okay, so I might give you this particular image, for example, and ask you how many network cards do we have working in the system? So how many IP addresses do we have working in the system? Okay, or I might ask you list the networks with the network addresses that we will be able to see on a routing table with this. All right. And then networking in the cloud. Again, we're configuring network cards inside the cloud itself. I don't care about the specific configuration that we do, but I do care about routing. I want you to absolutely know everything about routing. Okay, everything that's here, the frr.conf, I will definitely give it to you as an example, and I will tell you what does this line do. All right. Or it might be fill in the blank. You might just have to fill in a number or something like that in that file. All right. I want you to know why we do this, why we enable IP forwarding. All right. And if you don't understand it, Google it. Basically, by default, Linux comes with IP forwarding disabled as a security measure. All right. But for routing, we need it. Okay. You enable and disable the firewall and let it through, and then you start the service. And what does the watch root -n command do? It lists the routing table, keeps it on the terminal, and dynamically updates it every 2 seconds or whatever it is. All right. And then we're moving on to this lovely lab sheet, which you need to know nothing about for the exam. Okay, you've built the system already. I'm just telling you here, build more virtual machines, set up some services, and make a cloud. I'm not going to ask you about installation questions about NFS or LDAP or anything, because some of you might not have done it, and it's not fair. Okay, plus I haven't taught it here as a lecture, so again, it's even more not fair. All right? So this is the material, the curriculum that will be in the exam from this. So the exam will be 50 questions, 1 hour. The different types of questions that you will have will be multiple choice, multiple response, some matching questions, maybe some fill in the blanks questions, and so on. All right. And now we move on to the logbook assessment. Everything you need to know about the logbook assessment is here on the week of the assessment. All right. So the assessment will take place on Friday of that week. So I think it's the 16th of May, if I remember correctly. Okay. The first thing I'm going to say is you need to do two things to get a mark on the logbook. The first thing is show up for the assessment. The second thing is submit your logbook on Moodle. Whenever you like. Okay, if you don't do one of these things, non-submission, 0 mark. Okay, I've had very good students miss the submission for the first year deadline in January, and they got 0. And I'm going to say it here. I'm going to email it to you on that last week. I've said it in the first week. I don't know how many more times I can say this. I am now on video saying this. Yes? We covered? Yes? Good. So, on that Friday, the 16th of May, I will go around and sit on each of your computers for 5 minutes. You all need to be in the class either at 9 or 2 o'clock exactly. Okay? Don't come in later. If I do come by your desk and you are not there, non-submission. It's the simple task of being somewhere on time. If you're working in a company and you're presenting a product that you created to your customer and you're there 15 minutes late, you lost the contract and most probably your job as well. So we're going to play this game of you being on time. Yes? Good. It is a formal assessment event. Because it is an assessment event, I don't want anybody else in the class other than the people that are getting assessed. So if you are in the afternoon group and you usually come in the morning and do some extra work or vice versa, that week don't. Okay, so that last week, you must only attend the session that you are supposed to be in. Okay, so I will go around the computers. I will sit with you for about 5 minutes max, maybe a bit more. You need to have your logbook completed. You can also have it submitted already if you like. The submission inbox will be open. Okay. I will not accept any changes past the point where I've read the logbook. Okay. For this specific reason, I'm going to set the deadline for the logbook to actually be on Wednesday, the 14th. Don't panic if you get an email or something that says, because we give you 2 days extra. This 2 days extra rule is a university-wide rule that just messes with our assessment structure. Okay, I cannot mark your logbook and then you submit your logbook after 2 days and make changes. Because when I mark your logbook, I will give you feedback. I will tell you you're getting 70% because you built the virtual machines in the last lab set, but you didn't install and configure any services. If you then go after a couple of days and give me a logbook that has services configured, what are we going to go to court of the university and try and figure out who's right, either me or the student? Okay, it's just not possible. So I am going to set a deadline for the submission on Wednesday for 6 o'clock or whatever it is, but the real deadline for it is going to be on Friday. All right. And the submission inbox will be open from way before that. So if you do finish early in that week and you're confident with it, that's it. Even if you do finish with your logbook next week and you don't feel like coming in on the last week, you can tell me, I can assess your logbook in the lab, and you can just not come in the last week. It's fine by me. Okay, and I've done it a lot over Christmas because people wanted to leave before the last week. All right, so it's fine. If you think that your logbook is ready, you would like me to assess you, I can do it whenever you like. Okay, so you need to have your logbook open on the screen. I will quickly scroll through your logbook, have a read. All right, I've become increasingly efficient in this, but fine. If you think that I've missed some information, point it out to me. Say, look, Vas, I did this wonderful thing, blah, blah, if I don't mention it, okay? And then I will have a look at your computer as well, and I will make sure that what is in your logbook matches what's on your computer. Okay, if you have built an entire cloud with, I don't know, hybrid AWS infrastructure in it, and your logbook just simply goes through the 3 first labs, then obviously that's a problem. Yes? If you have everything done in your logbook, but they don't exist on your system, that's also a problem as well. A small subsection of this is that everything needs to be working on that day. Okay, so if you do get your system to a point that everything works, suspend it, take a backup. Okay, at the day of the assessment, bring back that backup, start it up, and so on. The my computer crashed excuse is not valid. I've shown you how to take backups. I'm hoping you've been taking backups for weeks now. My computer broke is just simply not acceptable. Yes? Deal? Good. So, your system needs to have the things that are supposed to be working. If something doesn't work, I can look through your command history and see if you've actually had it running and see if you actually type the commands correctly to make the thing run. And if you have your screenshots in your logbook, then I will take that as running and I will forgive you for it not working that day. Yeah, it's fine. So once the other problem with it is that if I do see something in your computer that I don't understand or it doesn't match your logbook, I will start asking questions. Okay, if I ask 3 questions that you cannot answer, this is a 0 on your logbook. It means that you don't understand what's in your logbook. Somebody did the work for you on your computer, possibly wrote the logbook for you as well. Yes, people have bought logbooks in the past. It's great. All right, but I will butcher you. It will be brutal. Yes, it's a very, very bad experience for the students. I've come to enjoy it now, but it's fine. Yes? So make sure that you can answer my questions if something looks iffy on your logbook or in your computer. That's why it's more important to have little progress on your system, but absolute understanding of everything that's in it, rather than have all of the labs it's done with lots of help from anybody, even from my teaching assistants. It's fine, because we do offer the help and you should take it. However, the purpose of the help is for you to learn. Okay, for you to understand what's happening and to be able to know and answer my questions. Okay, so that's why being unable to answer questions that I make is what we call a cardinal sin. All right, and at 3 questions, you're out. It's like a TV show. Brilliant. Only your future is in jeopardy, not some money. All right, so if you're struggling to understand, if you don't understand something, don't include it in the logbook. It's as simple as that. Okay, it's much, much safer for you. All right. So I don't know if I'm missing anything else. I will give you a mark on the spot. I will tell you the mark, and I will not accept any debates. If I give you 80% and you ask for 85, I will take it down to 75. If I give you 95 and you ask for 100, I will give you 70. Yes? Deal? All right. I will give you feedback. I will explain to you why I'm giving you so much. In fact, in the back of one of my pages, there will be the marking scheme that says lab sheet 1 deserves so many points, lab sheet 2 deserves so many points, and so on and so forth. All right. And you need to remember that each lab sheet deserves these points if everything is done and works perfectly on the computer, everything is documented on your logbook perfectly, So you have all of the configuration file screenshots, all of the commands that you've typed with all of the results, and all of the results of the system working and final testing of the thing working. So if routing, for example, you configure routing, you need to show me that you can ping from one of your VMLs through subnet 30, all the way out to Google. Yes? So this is a screenshot that proves that your networking works and that your routing works. And on top of that, you need to be explaining under those screenshots, this is what I'm seeing here, this is what I've configured, and I've configured this way for that specific reason. So each screenshot needs to have the what and the why, as we call it. What you've done and why you've done it that way. So if you have all of these prerequisites met, I'm really happy to give you full marks. And I've given 100% in the past, and I really don't care. There are some lectures that say, oh, 100% should be for God. So stop the marking at 95%. What's the point, Okay. So I am generally a loose cannon with the marking, as long as you don't get on the bad side of me by not answering questions that I have. It will either go very well or very bad. There's like no middle ground. Okay. Good. You need to remember, so there will be a Moodle submission. So you need to submit your file there wherever you like, as long as you do it before the deadline of that Friday, the 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whatever it is. Okay. I have a feeling, I'm not sure about it, that all deadlines have to be at 4 o'clock, which is really annoying for me because that second lab session goes all the way up to 5 o'clock. Okay. So if you are in the afternoon session, really just like the morning session, just make sure that your logbook is complete and you submit it before you come to the class. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Because once you're in the class, then you cannot really make changes. Of course, it also goes without saying, oh, this is taking a long time. It goes without saying that you shouldn't be making changes on your system on the day. So on Friday, if something doesn't work, don't try to fix it. If I come to your computer and you say, I just made the change, I got routing working, I'm restarting the computer, I'm going to go away and give you 0. Okay, so no changes for your sake, really, on Friday. All right, make sure you go to the lab. It is open access. Luckily, this teaching block, there is only you and the first year students on Mondays that work. They are a big group. They're about 120 students. All right. But it's only 2 modules, essentially. In teaching block 1, we had 6 modules running in there, so that was a nightmare. Okay, the lab is open access. You can go and work in the lab from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. And you can go and you can try and get as many tasks as possible finished. And you can also hire the teaching assistants to come and help you with it as well. Or even to just explain stuff to you if you want. Okay, it's totally up to you. You can also send me your logbook before the assessment, as long as it's like 5 days or something before the assessment, and I can give you some feedback on it. Or you can show it to me in the lab next week and tell me, have I done this right? Am I doing this wrong? The problem is, if you haven't done this already and you've completed all of your logbook or 90% of your logbook, and I tell you, this is horribly wrong, you'll have a lot of work to do for just 5 days remaining. All right. So that's why I'm saying don't send me drafts of your logbook on Thursday before the assessment. It's pointless. Okay. Either you'll be lucky and I will tell you don't do anything, it's fine, or make small changes and you can make them. Or I might tell you, this is totally wrong, you need to change all of it, and then, you have a few hours to get everything done and you won't sleep. Okay. But you can send me drafts of your logbooks and I can have a look at them and I can tell you if something needs fixing. I won't tell you everything you need to know in order to get 100% on it. I will tell you everything you need to know in order to get to 70% on it, which is A. Okay. Nothing else. The last part of this that says at the end of the lab session I will stop assessing is true. However, you're small lab groups, so I don't think we're going to have that problem. So we should be fine. Okay. Just be quiet, because it is very intensive for me to be scrolling through logbooks and trying to catch information everywhere. Okay, so just try to be quiet in that day. You can, of course, get up, go around and talk to your friends and everything. Just don't play music, don't have phones on, don't get messages all the time that beep. and stuff like that. Okay, just to make, so if you make my life easier, I will be happier. I will give you more marks. Make sense? Yeah. I'm not a robot yet. I'm gonna try, All right, good. That's it. Any questions about all this? Yes.
Question like the exams, like how many questions are we expecting?
I just said it, 50.
Okay, 50.
1 hour. 1 question per minute and 10 minutes spare to cry about it or anything else? Yes.
The exam, the timetable is 6th of May.
Is it? 6th of May? June?
June, 6th of June.
6th of May is next week. 6th of June. That's great. I will be in Greece. I wish you all the best. No. So I will be available. So if you do not understand something in the exam, you can ask the invigilators. However, they will need to judge whether it's something that they can help you with or not. Okay. So if it is something that's possibly my mistake, then they can call me and we can sort it out. Okay. So if it is on the 6th of June, that's great. So that means that the last week of exams, if you were hoping to go back home before that, I'm really sorry. I didn't do this on purpose. Great. Okay. If it's out, it's out. So yeah, 6th of June, make sure you go to the exam at least 20 minutes before the exam starts. Yes. Don't come in after the exam has started because you need to figure out where you're sitting. The name tags will be on a desk somewhere. So you need to find your name tag and you need to sit on the computer. You need to have your student ID with you. Okay. You need to follow the process of logging into the computer, then logging onto Moodle, and then logging onto the exam interface, whatever it is. And then when the time for the exam comes to start, they will give you a password and you can start the exam. Okay. It's better to go early, sit on the computer for 5 minutes at the login screen with a password, do nothing, and either concentrate, do some yoga or whatever, or read through your notes. You will have a piece of paper with you, read through it as a last minute refresher of everything that you possibly need to know about the exam. So when the exam starts, then you will be really ready to start. Okay?
Like for the lab, like for the VML and the VFS one.
Yes.
You need to create like sub users, let's say like VMLS lecturer 1, lecturer 2.
Yes. And you need to create them twice. You need to create some users for OpenNebula itself in the OpenNebula users page on the left. And then inside the operating system, you need to create a user that can log in. And you can either manage this locally, create local user accounts, or the one that will give you more marks is if you set up LDAP on the server, not on Prometheus, okay, and manage your users centrally from there. Like the absolute 100% would be given to somebody that set up NFS file sharing and they've set up LDAP and their users can log in. They have the roaming home directories and they can also see the shared drives once they log in that are configured to be delivered to the user through LDAP after they've been correctly shared through NFS, which is exactly what we do at the university, by the way. This is how you all get your home directories when you log into any of the computers here. Okay. Any other questions?
There was something I noticed actually. Like when I created for the VML,
yes,
I created lecturer 1, lecturer 2.
Okay.
But I noticed that one lecturer 1 and lecturer 2 log in into the VM.
Yeah.
It is as if they are logging into the same VM and the same cursor is moving.
So you haven't made the template non-persistent. Okay, so you need to make sure that the templates that your lecturer is logging, basically, your lecturer should always be getting the same per user account. So their home directories should be their own. So if you have 2 lecturers logging into one template, that template should be getting the home directory from somewhere. So when someone logs out, their home directory should get unmounted. And when somebody else logs in, their home directory, theoretically, if you set up the users locally, if it's the same virtual machine that you're logging in, the same template, and you change the wallpaper, for example, the user profile information is held in a different folder. It's going to be /home/ whatever user, and then the other one is going to be /home/ whatever the other user. So they should be different. They shouldn't be. So do some customization, change the wallpaper and see if it sticks. Okay. Anything else? Okay, we need to go because there's another lecture as well here. Thank you very much.